Hey man, this is kind of a weird lame duck period, isn't it?
Wah, wah, wah.
People are in a holding pattern. They don't know what to do. I mean, not just with politics. They just, it's about to be Christmas next week, and we're just kind of sitting on our hands, just sort of waiting. What are we waiting for? I don't know. I guess what to expect. We're waiting for New Year's resolutions. We're waiting for the holidays to be over. I mean, we're enjoying it, but we're just kind of eating crap and enjoying ourselves and having experiences, and all that's good. It's just weird because it's not like people that I have seen are really like fired up to go, accomplish greatness and take on the world and take on new challenges. They're just sort of just like, oh, what is today gonna be? There's not like a whole routine or schedule. It's just, oh, yeah, oh, it's Thanksgiving. Oh, it's, gonna be Christmas next week. So like we gotta go out and buy gifts and then shopping and dealing with crowds and there's some stress, but I just see people in this like holding pattern, just sort of waiting, biding their time for the rest of the year. And it's interesting that this phenomenon occurs. This is like one of the most palpable times of year where this does happen. Not to say it doesn't happen other times, but especially like summer, like late summer before school starts, there's like a little bit of a holding pattern, where vacations are finally coming to an end, the summer's coming to an end, and people are gearing up for the next semester or whatnot. Um, but we're
The
in this
year's
weird
coming to
holding
an
pattern.
end. Yeah, the year's coming to an end. It's going to be 2025 in a couple of weeks, and already, holy moly. And it's even, we get in this pattern every year, but this year is even more exaggerated because we have this transition of political power in the United States, and a lot of people are anxious about what's going to happen and what's going to, they're anxious to see how the transition goes and what happens with the new political shift. So
Yeah.
it seems the holding pattern is even exaggerated more this year. And you know what? At the end of the day, a holding pattern is just fine. It's okay to just not make a decision and kind of just float and be a bobber on the, a buoy on the ocean, just kind of floating around for a while. People come to me. We've talked about the decision paralysis in the past, but you know, people get very anxious when it's like, oh, they have to make a decision and they don't know what decision to make, and they really lament over what it is to do. And my answer is always, if you don't know what the answer is, then it's not time to make the decision yet. I mean, do you
Yeah.
have to make the decision? Is like there a deadline on the decision? No. Well, then like let it stew, let it percolate a little bit. So it's okay to be in a holding pattern because lots of stuff is happening. You feel like you're not moving forward, but your brain is still going. Your brain operates 24/7, even when you're sleeping. So things are percolating.
The percolating. Well, I turned 46 a couple week ago, a couple days ago, 14th.
Happy, happy birthday from all of us to you.
Thank you. And you know, I feel like you and I have been programmed, the Gen Xers have been programmed to always be productive, like
Hmm.
always be doing something that's working towards a goal that's going to make you more successful, that's going to give you more power and influence, more money, or what have you, or just to do shit just to be busy. And when we like have any downtime or are in a holding pattern, it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. I feel like I've been sitting too long. I got to go do something.
Hmm.
But we're trying to express today in this episode that those holding patterns are really okay. And
Hmm.
you don't have to make a decision. You don't have to perform at your best all the time. You don't
Right.
always have to be productive.
Hmm. No, that's for sure. And you're right. I think it's generational too. Because as Gen X, remember we were kicked out of the house, when we were in school. Saturday morning, you watch your cartoons, you ate your cereal in front of the TV, and then it's like, get out of the house, come back, at dinner time. And so
Yeah.
you had to go and do, and you were always on the move, and idle hands were working the devil. And we heard all this stuff that you just got to keep in motion.
If
And
you
it's
got
not,
time to lean, you got time to clean.
ain't got time to leave.
Yeah.
Love that quote. But yeah, it's okay to be in that holding pattern. And you know what? We use a lot of analogies. I say sit in the mud puddle, It's okay to just sit with it, be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable sometimes because you
Mhm.
still got to work through it.
How uncomfortable do we get in silence
Right.
or when nothing is happening, or even in conversations where like it's been silent for too long? Don't we feel like we need to interject something,
Mm.
contribute something to the conversation?
Hey, and we all spill secrets on this podcast. So that is the therapist's best trick in the world is silence.
Yeah.
Because and you should do that in conversations with people. In the silence is where the interesting things happen. Because it's funny, and particularly Tom is very good at this. But when you work with adolescents, and I got nothing to say, okay, well, you let me know when you want to talk about something, and you sit there for 10 minutes and stare at each other, and they're about jumping out of their skin.
Yes. Oh yeah. Mhm.
So then they start spilling. Fine, I'll talk. Oh, okay, that's
Oh,
fine. What do you want to talk about?
yeah.
That's a good police tactic too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
People get so uncomfortable, at least in our society,
Hmm.
with silence
Right.
and with space too. I that's why I really embrace sort of that more Eastern philosophy of having just openness and space and being able to be in silence, just to be with your own thoughts or to not be with any, just to be, just to exist.
Hmm.
And it's very challenging because we were raised to not to be like that, to do the opposite. If you've got space, you know, put a fucking table over there, put a tchotchke there. Hey, there's room on the desk. This looks like space for, a candle or whatever, you know.
I got 14 ugly lamps in the garage. Go grab one.
Right. Yeah, this looks like a perfect spot for a Precious Moments figurine.
Oh, ugh. So growing up, my family had Hummels and Precious Moments and bleh, bleh. And I have none of that. I have like empty space. I love like there's nothing better to me than a clean, empty counter or a
Mhm.
table.
Yeah.
Ugh, love it.
But that makes people so uncomfortable. They feel like
Mhm.
they need to fill it up. They need to fill up the silence with words, even if they're pointless. And then they need to fill up space with stuff to make
Mhm.
it feel or seem like I don't know, we're more successful or we
Mhm.
have more or we have an abundance of or opulence. I don't know where
Metaf
exactly that came from.
Metaphorically, you're filling the void.
Yeah.
So what void are you actually trying to fill?
Because
Ah, interesting.
because that instant gratification of putting something somewhere does not fill. That may fill that space,
Mhm.
but that doesn't fill the void that's inside you. So that's an even deeper question. What is it that you are trying to
Mhm.
fulfill?
Because it checks the box. I mean, you got an empty table, you put a lamp on there, you're like, check, I filled the void. Metaphorically, your brain gets some relief out of filling a void. But what is the real void that you're trying to fill? So,
Right.
yep, that's where Tom and I come in. Dun 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 with our capes flying
Yeah.
around.
Let's explore that for you. What is
Yeah,
that void that you're trying
yeah.
to fill? Even with like uncomfortable silences, what is it that you were trying to fill? What makes it so uncomfortable for you? Is it your upbringing? Is it that you feel like you need to be contributing, that you need to be productive, that you need to demonstrate that you have things and you are successful? Is it that you feel unloved, undesired, unwanted? Do you feel hungry? Do, do you feel tired or exhausted? Are you angry at something? I'm just throwing all these things out there, but these could be voids that you're trying to fill or quench.
Mm. And it's funny when we think of those scenarios, as therapists, we love those aha moments, right? When we're just, as therapists, we're just inquisitive and we're asking questions because we don't know. A lot of times we do know, but we don't know. And we're just asking questions. And what do you think of that? And how did that make you feel? And what were you thinking of when that happened? And then, someone screams out, I just wanted mom to love me and accept me for who I am.
Yeah. Mhm.
Let's talk about that.
There's a powerful technique in CBT, and oftentimes as therapists, we don't ask why because that imposes a certain judgment. But this technique is an asking why type of thing, but it's for a purpose. And there's no judgment associated with it. It's to get the person to dig a little bit deeper. Okay, why did you purchase that lamp for that table? Why did you spend 2 hours researching table lamps so you can fill that spot? Like, what was it about that? Well, I want to make my house look really pretty. Well, why? Why is that important to you? Well, I want my house to look pretty because that's symbolic of how well I'm doing, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all those things. Okay, well, why is that important for you to feel good about what you're doing? Well, and then as they start digging and digging, we actually get to, well, because I never felt like my mom loved me. I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I was important. I didn't feel like I mattered. Those are the root things that we'd really like to tackle because those are what is creating the void in you. And you're trying to
Mhm.
fulfill it with all this extra shit, but it's not going to replace the feeling of I am not important. Mom didn't love me, or my husband doesn't love me, or whatever it is. Those are the things we have to work on.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, and so that's a lot of the techniques that we will use and explore, but it can be exhausting, and we're back to it's okay to just be in a holding pattern. You don't have to figure out everything all the time right away, right? Things need to sit and percolate, and there's a lot of times in therapy where you'll have like this aha moment or this discovery, and it's actually detrimental for us to keep digging, and we'll just let it sit because your brain now is like we said, your brain will run. Your brain has explored this topic, seemingly for the first time, and it needs to process it, right? We don't want to muddy the waters by asking a lot more questions. A lot of times we'll have some of that aha moment, depending, and we got to make clinical judgment, but we'll have that aha moment and it just needs to sit. And how many times have you had that aha moment and you just go, oh, in silence for like 5 minutes while they're like, what the hell?
Yeah. Here's another thought regarding the holding pattern. Um, Interestingly enough, in the military, there's this hurry up and wait type of, it's a fodder, it's a joke, oh, hurry up and wait, we start the march, at 10 a.m., but we have to arrive there at 3 a.m., because we've got to make sure all our gear is there, we got to make sure we're in the formation, we've got to squad leaders need to check in and make sure their squad is there and then report to the platoon sergeant. The platoon sergeant needs to talk to the company commander. Company commander needs to talk to the, battalion chief or what, like, but for all these things to happen, it takes time. And so by the time 10 o'clock a.m. occurs, everybody is finally ready and in formation. All the reports are in, everybody's accounted for, all the gear is set and ready to go. And then we can step off and do whatever the march is or the hike or something like that. But the hurry up and wait is so frustrating because we've done everything we need to do up until this point. Now we are ready to go. Now the anxiety comes and the stress comes with, let's just get this thing over with. And so it's important to enjoy and celebrate even the fact that you are in a holding pattern if you do feel like that right now, because you've done everything that you can possibly do up until this point to prepare for whatever it is you need to prepare for. Maybe it's just the new year, maybe it's politics, maybe it's your New Year's resolutions, maybe it's your business and you're ready to take hold of the reins and go for the gusto this next year, whatever. Now you're in a holding pattern where there's nothing else you could possibly do. So just take this time to chill and just rest. When the time comes, you are more than prepared to tackle whatever it is that life throws at you. So just enjoy your preparation time right now because you're ready.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And we talk about just being comfortable in the silence, right? Not everything has to be a moving target all the time. So just, when indecision hits you, just let indecision run with it. I mean, you don't have to, like I said, if you don't have the answer to the question, if you don't know what the right decision is, then don't make the decision.
Hmm.
Now, you can't sit in that forever. You're going to eventually have to make a decision, but
Oh, there's the delicate balance, right?
mhm,
How many people do you know who have been in the holding pattern and who have been waiting and have been
mhm.
indecisive for years?
So I always see this a lot with relationships is one person doesn't want to be in the relationship anymore, or they feel like it's not what they're looking for, but they don't want to make the decision. So they'll make the other person's life miserable as possible until the other person will make the decision. So
It
you're
happens a
forcing
lot.
somebody else. Yeah.
It
You're
happens a
forcing
lot.
the other person to make a decision. And it's not just with relationships and couples. It can happen in other things too.
Mhm.
I see that with employment. People that don't want the job anymore, but don't have the confidence to quit. So they'll start being late all the time and not attend to their work, and they'll get to the point where there's conflict at work, so they'll quit or before they get fired, but they've created the scenario because they don't want. So that can be the downfall or the bad side effect of not making a decision. When when you know what the answer is, you need to have the confidence to make the decision and move forward. But
Right, because if you are waiting for somebody else to make the decision for you, I mean, one, that could be a secondary gain because then they can have the narrative of, well, this happened to me, that
mhm,
external locus of control type of person,
mhm,
more engaged with the victim kind of mentality, oh, look what happened to me. And then they can complain about it and get sympathy or, pity or empathy from others, or just, they can tell the story and people can feel sorry for them. And then they can, like, this was out of my control. This just happened, even though they probably facilitated that. Same thing
right.
in the couples, where like the one person doesn't want to be the asshole, so to speak. So, they'll
Mhm,
make the other person's life miserable. And oftentimes, this is when they come into therapy. Usually, it's that person who doesn't want to be the asshole, doesn't want to make the decision, who wants out of the relationship, whether consciously or unconsciously, and wants to go through therapy to prove and show that this is not going to work. And that way, it's me who's making the decision for them.
right.
Clearly, guys, this
I
isn't going
mean,
to
how
work.
many times do you even say, "See what I mean? This marriage isn't salvageable. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Therapist?
Yeah. Yeah.
What, you
Mhm.
want me to make this decision?"
So,
And so
I
it is
work
a
hard at
yeah.
trying to get them to make these positive changes, at least do these things that I'm sharing with you. And then, of course, naturally, oftentimes they come back, well, did you do any of those things? Well, we did that thing once. What about the five things I shared with you? And I said to do these every day for the next 2 weeks. Did you? No. Oh. And
Hmm,
our marriage sucks.
hmm. Uh,
Oh,
Surprise. I wonder how that happened. I can't even imagine.
right. No.
And it is unfortunate. We've said this before, but a lot of the times couples come and try marital therapy or couples therapy when it's too late. You should have done this. If you would have done this a year ago, 2 years ago, um, we might have had more success, but you have been so mired into this muck for so long. I'm not sure. Oftentimes it's the last check on the box they need to say before divorce. Like, we
Yeah.
tried couples therapy, it didn't work. Well, you
It
really
did work. Clearly, it didn't work. Yeah.
tried. You attended. I'll give you that. You showed up, but you didn't really attend.
Right. You gave a credit card and you paid
Yeah.
money. I don't think it should be a prerequisite, but I think it's a really good idea. So I strongly encourage couples to do some sort of premarital counseling in a way,
Hmm,
even if it's just one session, just to
hmm.
kind of talk about some things to expect when you're entering into an actual legal marriage, because it's a business, transaction, so to speak, a business arrangement. And I
Sure
think
is.
it would be important for couples to kind of be above board with what to expect regarding that. And then just on an emotional level, kind of what to expect when you're in a marriage with somebody, like I think that would be really helpful and healthy for couples to engage with, even if, because at the beginning of a relationship, this is like, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And some relationships continue
Mhm,
that way. The relationship I have with Kira, my wife, that has been the case. But in previous relationships, for both of us, it has not. It had
mhm,
been hard work, challenges, and chaos at at times, but
Hmm.
um, not every relationship is like that. And I think it is helpful for people to engage in some sort, even if it's just reading a book together, to kind of understand what it's like being in a long-term healthy relationship. I think it's better to go to an actual therapist who does that kind of work, to kind of explore the ins and outs of you, because that initial the honeymoon phase, we call it, that wears off.
Hmm.
It's
I
not
think it's
always going to be
important, like
butterflies and
every
rainbows.
5 years or so, just check in with someone, you know? It's not a bad idea, a session or a couple of sessions, just check in with somebody. Even if you think everything's good, they're not looking for problems, but they can kind of look at some communication patterns or whatever.
For those of you who are listening who have lived for a few decades already, you know that there are stages of development. You know that what it was like from 10 to 20 and how horrendous that period was. It's very different from 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50. These different decades, these different stages of our lives and development, even though we still might have our same personality, like the way that we view the world and the things that we have seen and experienced and the traumas that we have suffered, it changes us and we're a little bit different. And the way that we're thinking, feeling, interacting with others is different. And so if you get into a relationship, when you're, let's say, 25 and you've been together for 10 years, at 35, things are going to look and be a little bit different. So it is important to have a check-in from time to time, where
Mhm.
are we? What are we doing? And if there's kids involved, if you have kids, that changes the dynamic at home. And that by nature, changes who you are and what you're doing and how you're thinking, feeling, reacting, responding. And if, one of the parents, usually mom, is more devoted to the kids, then dad feels neglected, and doesn't feel like he has his wife anymore because now she's mom. This happens oftentimes. And so I think it's important to have those regular kind of check-ins. What do we need to do if we're not feeling happy or attended to, or,
Mhm.
whatever the case?
Right. Yeah. I mean, in outside of couples therapy, it's good to even individually check in with a therapist every whenever, it's a good thing. I'm a therapist for 25 years and I've been in therapy twice in my life.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience for me. Learned stuff. I mean, I know this business and I learned stuff about me that it was very, very helpful.
Absolutely. And you know what? Because we're in this field, are lucky because we interact with therapists all the time. So
Uh,
we kind of get that anyway.
yeah.
Get to kind of check in and,
Well,
what have
Tom
you?
and I for 4 or 5 years worked out every morning. So we were checking in with each other on a continual basis, and it was
Yep.
great. It
How
was
many
great
of
to have
those
a
did,
therapist slash lifting partner.
and how many of those workouts, we didn't touch a weight?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you got a second? How about this shit? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Mhm.
And they were like, oh, all right, we got to go.
Yeah.
We got to get to work.
Pick up one weight so we can say we did something.
Right. I moved the bench and the dumbbells out. Oh, let's just put those away. And then, okay.
Yeah, for sure. So, to sum up, hey, you got to check in with folks. You got to check in with a therapist. It's a good thing to do occasionally, with couples individually. And we're in this holding pattern now at the end of the year, and we're all waiting to see this political shift. We're waiting for the year to end, and work is being weird, and there's still lots of layoffs happening out there. So there's a lot of anxiety happening, and what's going to happen with the economy and the stock market tanked 1,000 points the other day, and just
Yeah,
others, everyone's like in a holding pattern, and it's okay. So
it's okay.
feel comfortable with just riding the wave right now.
Yeah. Have some pie.
Have some pie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just enjoy, just, as best you can. Enjoy the holidays, enjoy time with family. Do your best to manage any difficult or challenging family members or situations. I think we talked about that before in a previous episode, but It's okay if you're in a holding pattern. Just sort of be and exist. Oftentimes, being and existing, that mindfulness is something that we talk about a lot as being something that helps combat anxiety and depression and a whole host of other things. Just be in the moment, you know. So take this time to do some yoga, to meditate, to do some healthy things for yourself. Go for a nice long walk. Stay and play with the dogs for a little bit and don't worry
Mhm.
about always having to feel like you've got to be productive or you got to be doing something. You're a
Mhm.
human being, not a human doing.
Mhm. And particularly, your dogs need the attention at this time of year. I mean, they need this attention.
Yeah.
I always love those memes where it's like, "Hey, it's scientists have proven that dog sleeping in bed is really helpful for your mental health." And then the camera switches and it's like the dog
And it
typing
says the
it.
scientist.
The scientist, yes, the dog.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We have the advent calendars for us, but we also have one for the dogs, and there's little treats
Nice.
in there. That's fun. They go
Little treats in
bananas.
there. That's cool.
Yeah. So spend time with your dogs and your animals and with
Uh-huh.
each other.
And if you haven't checked out the dogs have been good this week. We rate dogs. What is it? The whole campaign, that guy that created that business where you see those bumper stickers that said, "Tell your dog I said hi."
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they donate a lot of money to, dogs. So
Mhm.
it's a great company. Check it out. We rate dogs,
Check
I think is the name of
check it out. Absolutely.
it. All right, Tom. Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
Happy
to you.
birthday,
Well,
Merry Christmas. Holy crap, it's happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah.
all that Kanaka, you know, and I'll see you right after Christmas, and we'll talk with you guys next week. Of course, if you have any comments or questions or anything you'd like to add or anything you'd like us to discuss, please send your emails to questions@therapyonzip.com, and we'll be happy to tackle that for you.
Absolutely. All right, Tom, you have a great Friday.
You too. Peace.